This is Greg Canty here, and welcome to the Win Happy podcast. Stay tuned for interesting chats with interesting people about winning their lives and being happy at the same time. This show has been brought to you by Fusion Communications. Thanks for listening. On today's podcast, I chat with Niall Harbison, who has already had a fantastic career and is now taking on the biggest challenge of all, looking after 10,000 street dogs every day in Thailand. Niall chats to me about his attention disorder, getting kicked out of many schools, and then falling in love with chefing. Chefing for the rich and famous on yachts means lots of time in your hand, and he put this time to use filming different recipes and sharing these on the new frontier of YouTube and social media. This led to the very successful social media business Simply Zesty, and then the media business Love in Dublin, which were both subsequently sold. Holidays in Thailand led to Niall making this paradise island his new home, where he soon discovered that lots of dogs needed his help. Let's hear from Niall. Niall Harbison, a huge welcome to the Win Happy podcast. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, explain to me where you're sitting and what's around you, because I'm in Ballincollig and it's a bit of a grey day.
Oh yeah, I'm in a paradise island called Koh Samui, which is in the south of Thailand. It's kind of what you'd think Thailand is like if you think of it in your head, with, you know, the little boats and the crystal blue waters and jungle and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of maybe like an Ibiza without the partying, or, you know, one of those sort of European islands. It's really just a luscious tropical island. So I'm very happy to be here, yeah.
Yeah, so of course it's not half as good as the postcard pictures, is it?
Oh yeah, no, it's even better. That's the no, it is. It's a nice place to live. It's really cheap. The weather's amazing. The Thai people are very, very friendly. And if you don't read the media online or look at Twitter, you could nearly imagine there's nothing wrong with the world, you know?
It sounds to me like you're after, to use one of the expressions I use a lot on the Win Happy podcast, you're after chiseling out a pretty nice life for yourself.
Yeah, there's a good few expats here, a few Irish as well, but it's a big leap into there's a lot of stuff you have to do to get here, like visas, and it's a totally different culture, you know, after the holiday sort of honeymoon period wears off. The language is hard, but the upside is just fantastic. I love it, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, you're the perfect Win Happy guest, because the whole idea of Win Happy is that we're forever chiseling out a life for ourselves that has us making choices along the way, discovering the things that are important to you, and making decisions to make some of that stuff happen. Now, I do call it Win Happy because you need to put the ball in the back of the net the odd time as well. So what I want to do before we kick off, I want to play a little clip, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
How are you, Bouncy? Why are they not letting you eat, huh? Why are they not letting you eat? What have you done? You're too happy for them.
Now, for anyone who has a dog, that munching, crunching sound is a bit of a symphony, isn't it?
It's like what my morning sounds like every day, yeah.
Yeah, and all the background sounds and everything. Who's Bouncy, Niall?
So I feed street dogs over here. Started small and now I've got about 60 or 70. Bouncy's probably, I'd say, the happiest of them all. She's just called Bouncy because she bounces up to you every day. And she's one of the ones I feed, and then I've moved on to sterilizing them, which is neutering or spaying them so they don't multiply. But she's a little white, beautiful dog that looks like a pet that we would have sort of considered in Ireland or, you know, anywhere else. But she's actually a street dog, so has to find her own food, water. And I also give them medicine, which is pretty important, nearly more important than food, actually.
And I must say thank you, because, you know, we're living in this world and it's surrounded by a lot of bad news and bad shit and evil and power and Donald Trumps and lies and wars and Putin and all of that stuff. And I swear to God, I have you on a notification on Twitter, because I follow so many people, you know, with the algorithms and all that kind of shit. You don't see stuff anymore. But I've deliberately picked out a few things that I will get notified by. And I know I'm not the only one, because I see the reaction you get to your different social media posts. So for anyone who's listening, I guess you're on all the different social media platforms now, Leah.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find, just my name, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do something about your well-being, and if you want to put yourself in a happy place, first time any day, or if you're falling into a bit of shitfill in your day for whatever reason, just click on Niall, whatever bloody social media channel, and just press play for a while, because it fills you up with what you're doing. So what I'd love to do, Niall, besides saying thank you, and I really mean that, I want to know, who the hell are you, and how in the name of God did you end up in Thailand? And I know all the media stuff and the chefing, but it's an incredible story. So who the hell are you and where did you come from?
Yeah, I don't really know where to start. But yeah, I was a chef for 10 years and worked for some rich people as a private chef. Then I sort of changed careers because chefing is a tough gig.
Where are you from now? Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Tyrone, and then I grew up in Belgium, actually, because my parents worked there. But Tyrone originally. So, and then most of my time I spent in Dublin then, from about 20 to, well, on and off. I went off working on boats from, 2 spells in Dublin, really. One for about 10 years, one for 5. So, traveled around quite a lot as a chef. And then I worked, career change, because chefing was too hard of a job on your feet all day, and got into sort of digital media and starting my own companies and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of my background. Probably not selling myself very well.
You gave me the best whistle-stop tour of one of the most interesting careers ever. So your mum and dad going to Belgium, what were they working at?
They worked for the EU, actually. So my dad did, and my mum worked in an expat shop. So they were, and still do, actually. Well, my dad's retired. But yeah, I grew up there. It's kind of an international community that all worked from all the various different countries in the EU. So yeah, it was a nice, interesting way to start life.
Yeah. At what point did you come back to Ireland?
When I was at college, I went to chefing college in Calbrew Street when I was 17 or so. I was terrible. I got kicked out of 3 different schools because I couldn't concentrate.
Is that still the case?
Yeah, I think I ADHD or something like that. You know, like it's probably trendier now, whereas back then they just thought I was stupid. So I probably would have got filtered into some special needs class or something if I was. But in this day and age, they might have been more clued into it.
Yeah, and why chefing? What was the big attraction?
I think it was my dad who I really was kicked out of every school. I didn't know what to do with me. And then I think they saw me cooking or something. Must have been just, I don't know, I just saw a book and my dad was like, would you try cooking? And I think he said there was £60 a week, like a grant, I think it was at the time. And I was like, Jesus, £60. It sounded enormous. And I was like, I'm in. And I'm in. And then I fell in love with cooking as well, obviously. But there was, and the sort of going to Ireland, new country, you know, for me, exciting.
Yeah. And I spotted some of the names. Like I saw Conrad Gallagher, who would have been one of the chefing superstars in an Irish context at that time.
Yeah, he was a bit of a rogue sort of character. It was, big celebrity, and then it all sort of blew up and went wrong. And amazing place to work, though. It was like, I remember the MTV Music Awards were on in Dublin that time, and like the restaurant was full of all the guests and Conrad in the middle of it. It was just, really, and it was Michelin star restaurant. Like, he was a brilliant chef, but then just some pretty disastrous business things happened. But it was a great learning curve.
You obviously got a lot of exposure to what was going on within that business and stuff, did you?
Yeah, really. I was 18, or I just walked in and I wanted to work in the best. It was kind of one of the best restaurants in Ireland. And I remember going to Kevin Thornton's and Conrad Gallagher's, and I got into Conrad's, and it was a kitchen full of like 20 men who were angry about drunks, all about 30, walking around with sharp knives, and it was like I had to grow up pretty quickly.
You fitted in well, did you?
Well, I had to, yeah, just peel the spuds and keep my head down at the start.
And how did the rich yachting crew come into your life? Was that because you had Conrad Gallagher on your CV, do you think, or how did that work?
No, I went to work in the Alps. I did a ski season over there for 4 or 5 months, just cooking. I saw a job and went cooking in the snowboarding during the day, and then cooking at night. And then a guy there was like, "Look, I've heard there's these jobs down in south of France and Cannes and Antibes on boats," and I got in there, temporary job, and then just sort of worked my way up. So it was kind of just lucky, one of those things in life, right place, right time.
And in a way, any of those roles in hospitality, they're like international passports, aren't they? Because you can work anywhere.
It's very true. I'd never realised that before doing it. But yeah, cooking, you can, like, even when we were in Australia travelling, the lads I was with had a lot, degrees and everything. They had a lot of trouble getting work, whereas I could just 2 hours looking for a job as a chef and you get work. So yeah, it's brilliant for that.
We work with some different hotels and what have you. And I know one of the regular conversations now was, oh my God, we can't get chefs. And even after COVID, in a weird sort of a way, it seemed to be becoming even more difficult. And they're going far and beyond, bringing people from Thailand, trying to recruit chefs and everything else and go through all the visa stuff to facilitate them.
Pretty hard job, to be honest. Like, you really are. I don't know how much has changed now. I'm sure a good bit, but probably not that much at the same time. You're on your feet. It's a hot kitchen. It's tough. You really earn your money in that job.
Did you enjoy it at any point? Did you?
Yeah, I loved it. I'm probably not sounding enthusiastic. Like, just I got to my mid-20s and I was like, I can't be doing this when I'm 45, so it was just
you figured it out.
yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people do as well. That's probably why there's so many shortages.
Yeah. So that kind of bend or that curve away from chefing, when did that happen?
25, 26, I was working on the boats and I just started messing around with online and making little videos, and because I had a lot of spare time on the boats. The guests only come on, maybe a week every 2 months or something like that on their holidays. So I had loads of spare time. So I just started teaching myself digital and online, and it was the start of Facebook and YouTube. It was about 2006. So yeah, those things were just coming along, and I just thought there was I got excited by it and loved it. So I just went over into that world.
Yeah. And that really was the earliest days of it, wasn't it? Because like Facebook was, I don't know, was that 2008, 2009?
I think it was 2004 on the 5 on the American campuses and stuff like that, and then it came to Europe. But YouTube, I was making a video in 2006, 2007, but it was sort of 40 minutes to upload it sort of job. It was a different. It was a different world.
So were you editing and like the smartphones and all that kind of stuff weren't as good as they are now? So were you using proper camera equipment and all that, or what were you doing?
Pocket sort of camera, like an actual camera rather than a phone, and it was terrible quality and huge. Like now you push a button and you upload it, but back then it was file sizes and compression, and you had to go into forums and it was a good learning curve, but it was really the Wild West compared to what it is now. Yeah.
And what were you filming? Was it recipes or cooking tips, or what were you doing?
Recipes, cooking tips, just I suppose vlogs you would call them now, but just messing around with little different cooking tips and stuff like that.
Yeah. And what got you about it? Was it maybe getting excited seeing, viewer numbers building and followers and all that kind of thing? Is there a bit of a drug in it, or how did it work for you?
Exactly that. I put up a video of cooking a steak on YouTube and it got 100,000 views pretty quickly, which was insane back then, because it was literally one of the first videos of how to cook a steak. I'm not exaggerating. I think people were like, sorry, that's the dogs.
That's okay.
Providing a sound to my 2 dogs. Literally now there's 1,000 videos on how to cook a steak, but back then it was one of the first, and people were like, wow, this is better than a TV station or whatever. It was just so new that they all liked it.
Were you doing the whole thing, getting other people to hold the cameras and film you and all that kind of business?
Yeah, kind of balancing it on an edge and making it up as go along. It was pretty terrible. I think it might still be on YouTube, and it's pretty rough now, to be honest. I should probably figure out how to delete it. It's so bad.
Yeah, and was that stuff filmed from the boats, was it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, that added another bit of sparkle to it, I'm sure, you know.
It did, but I mean, if it was doing it now, it would look a million times better. It was just so nascent and new back then.
And bending everything from there then, what were your next steps?
Came back to Ireland, started a business making those videos, which was, the first business was a flop. It was iFoods. We did cooking videos. It wasn't a flop. We raised some money and got some traction, but it was too early. Like, people did, like you said, smartphones hadn't even, that was 2008. I think the iPhone just came out, and we were trying to make an iPhone app, and we did everything wrong. It was my first business, and I was like, it could have been very good, but the timing was a bit early, and our business ability was really bad at that stage. I was a chef, really, you know, so made every mistake in the book.
Yeah, but we have to, don't we? Like, no one teaches you that stuff, really. You have to do it.
Yeah, it's easy to say now once, you know, you look back, but at the time it's pretty painful when you sort of put your heart and soul into a business, as so many of us have, and it doesn't work out. Question yourself a lot, you know, but it's you're right, it's the best learning curve ever.
Was that a strange transformation for you, from being the chef that cooked food to people to all of a sudden being a business person who was trying to recruit clients and all that kind of business?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know really what a sales process. You know, I didn't know anything. I barely knew what an email address was. Never mind, or you know, like a formal email. Never mind more important stuff. So, yeah, it was a big transition, but fun also. It was like the thing I always think about chefing to this online world is I was never tired. Like, cooking, I was always just beat at the end of the day physically, whereas you could work 15 hours sitting at a laptop or doing other stuff and I never really felt as tired.
Did you feel that you had kind of found your groove a little bit, did you?
Yeah, exactly. I started learning, and it was a very exciting time. Like, it feels like very recent. I can't believe it's like that's 14, 15 years ago, but Facebook was new, Twitter was new, YouTube was new. Like, there was endless possibilities, and sort of people were writing it off and is it a fad, and I kind of was really all in on it. So I was lucky in that respect, because it turned out to, I just remember that first video going big, and I was like, wow, I did that from my little camera, and that is now out in the world, which sounds so obvious now, but back then it was like, shit, this is something quite important that's happening in terms of a tech transition.
Yeah, and putting it into context a little bit, like when we were talking about back then, that was back in a fairly rough recession.
Yes.
So as well as trying to kind of start a new business with all this technology and food and stuff, I think your clientele for the most part were in a fairly depressed, dark hole. So maybe it was a little bit of timing as well that kind of worked against it. Because I know, like, if you know, we do marketing and PR and stuff. And I remember coming back from the States. Do you remember when Sully landed that plane on the Hudson River? It was our last day on a trip to New York. I think my brother's kid was being christened and we were over there. So we came into Shannon, picked up the newspaper. So one of our hotel clients had gone into receivership.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that basically meant you weren't going to get paid for what you owed, for one thing. And that retainer or that income stream that was coming from there. And within, I think for about 2 months, it was like a domino effect of client after client after client, just throwing in the keys and saying, forget about it. So it was a dark time. And the one thing with me, and you know, from the hashtag win happy and positivity and stuff, I kind of figured out at that time that if a client had a positive bone left in their body, they could do something.
Yeah.
You know, they might not have big budgets. So when we were writing plans for people, I'd be kind of saying, top of the queue, I would put social media.
Yeah.
Brilliant opportunity. For the most part, it cost nothing at the time. And it was really, really effective. And I swear to God, Niall, like, it was the new frontier. I present that plan to you, Mr. Client. I swear to God, 9 times out of 10, you'd see the shutters coming down. Like, please don't talk to me about that shit.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to know it. And ironically now, so many years on, people are coming to us and they just want to talk about digital marketing.
Yeah. It's easy to say now, but like I totally get this. I know I saw the shutters coming down on people's eyes. Like it was like they were like, look, we're going through a recession and we've cutting every budget, and you're trying to ask me for money for some little Facebook trend. Like that was their mentality. Whereas you were well ahead of the curve. It sounds like.
Yeah, and of course now they're all rubbing their chins, totally knowledgeable, saying Facebook is actually gone now and no one's looking at it anymore. Like, how do we get from there to now so quickly?
Yeah.
So you kind of cracked you cracked the nut. You got the bit of magic with. I know there was Simply Zesty and Lovin' Dublin or Lovin'. Like, you did figure it out, didn't you?
Yeah, eventually it was. We're lucky with the timing. Yeah, really. Simply Zesty was a social media marketing agency, and like if the last business was the wrong time, that was the right time, because people had sliced all their budgets and cut everything back, but they kind of could get a social media campaign for a 50th of the cost of a TV ad, or like a peanuts. I think $2-3 something like that. We could do something, and they were willing to dip a little toe in the water with that sort of stuff, and it was good timing, and it did continue to explode and grow. So Facebook and those things, what they allowed us to do is just give us massive. We were in early, so like you got massive. You kind of ramped up as they ramped up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and the algorithms weren't messing with you or anything in those days. If you had 100 followers and you put out a video, 100 plus would see it. Now you have 100 and you're lucky if like 10 see it. It's gone so the other way. The show me the money time had to happen, didn't it, at some point?
Yeah, I think they're doing the same thing now with Instagram, and it's kind of, but look, it is what it is.
Yeah. So you're the businessman now and you're employing lots of people and all that kind of thing and getting into HR and all that. Did that suit you? Or because and you were a success story. A lot of people talk about Niall Harbison, and all of that stuff. Did that work for you? Were you happy?
Yeah, reasonably. I like building teams and doing stuff. I mean, spreadsheets and following up on invoices and that sort of stuff, not so much. But luckily, I always had really good people. I think I was good at identifying what I wasn't good at. So I'd have somebody like with a brilliant CEO, Ken Fitzpatrick, and in Simply Zesty, which was my choice to bring somebody in because I knew we'd be broke in 2 weeks if it was me in charge. But I was more at always think like a cheerleader, getting everybody excited and motivated and coming up with crazy ideas and projects and sales and marketing and all that. Just not the operator. Like I wouldn't be a COO type person. So I never really was CEO, but I was kind of just, I don't know what you would call it, a cheerleader kind of role.
Yeah. And in terms of, and I know this word isn't going to land with you very well or whatever, but in terms of the strategy, was the belief that, listen, this is an exciting area. I know what I'm doing. I've got the people who will do the admin bits. And the business should be carried and all of that.
Yeah, I think if you get people performing, I think that's what I can do. I always think of it like a football coach or something. When teams down in like a good manager or a good motivator can kind of come in and get everybody flying and get 20% extra out of everybody. I know I can't do accounts or HR or account management would be my worst possible job, like making sure like every campaign is nicely delivered and all that. But you get somebody who is good at that and make them feel like $1 million and that they're brilliant at their job and give them the tools and the freedom, then you have a winning result, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty good skill if you can identify that I'm not good at that shit, but I can identify the people who are.
Yeah, there was a guy, Ray Nolan was, I think it was him who said it to me, a famous Irish entrepreneur, or I saw a video, I'm nearly sure it was him, he was like, your job is to come in and sack yourself, make yourself redundant if you're in one of those fast growing companies, like any job you take on, like if you have to jump into HR for 2 weeks, you need to make yourself redundant, like get somebody in who takes the job off you and then you move on to the next area. So I think that's a good way of thinking. Not every company, but when we're in a fast growing company, that certainly worked.
And tell me now the process from giving birth to this baby, these different companies, these brands, and people being interested and you making a decision at some point that, yeah, maybe I should start waving goodbye to it or giving away my child. Is that difficult? According to my research or whatever, I think Dublin was 9 years. If you could even chart that time, what was that like?
It's the end of it. Selling a business is like, I always think it's like having a death in the family or something. I know that sounds a bit exaggerated, but if you think of like your business or like anybody who has a business, it's like your baby, it's something you've nourished and grown and been through hell and back to keep alive. And so when you lose it, then it's kind of like you don't wake up in the morning having nothing else to think about. So it's tough but it's your decision to sell it. If you don't want to take the money, you don't have to sell it. You can keep doing that. But I just thought it was the right time with those two businesses to move on. I thought I'd done everything I could with them. It's like you say, a lot of people would look at like Lovin or something and think it's a quick overnight success. Every business, even like Stripe or, big, huge companies, like they've been going for 10, 15 years. And the ups and downs in that period, or, a successful restaurant or something that you look at and you think, wow, that's amazing. Like Spotify, everybody's using Spotify now, but like that's been going for a decade, or maybe it hasn't. I don't know. I think it has. But you know what I mean? Like nothing really happens overnight. It's blood, sweat and tears for years usually.
And as you say, blood, sweat and tears. And something that I found in particular with a lot of people in the tech space, now maybe this is a bit of a generalization, but I find it does happen with tech. And maybe with tech, there's a bit of Aspergery type thing, they look at things maybe not as emotionally as we might. But this idea, oh yeah, brilliant, I'll start a business, I'll build it up and I'll flip it. And I always think that's so disrespectful to the thing that they're trying to devote some of their time and energy to. How could you even treat something like that? And in a funny way, even as us as marketeers or whatever, in particular, if they're asking you to do work in it, I kind of think if you feel so little about it, that it's something that you can just flip. Well, yeah. How do you expect us or your team, for that matter, to even get on board with that idea? And that flipping, and for a while there, I think in the whole kind of, web boom and everything, everyone got into that quick millionaire, something was bought by Yahoo or bought by Microsoft or whatever for so many zillion. And, a year ago, they were sitting in someone's bedroom tinkering on their computers. That flipping thing just doesn't sit right with me. Can you understand it?
No, I can understand your point of view. I mean, look, if somebody could make 50 million in a quick business, great, fair play to them. But yeah, I wouldn't be setting out to. I think if you do set out with that mentality, you'll fail probably 99% of the time. Even when we were in the companies I had, there's a few times people were interested in investing or buying the company, and like you get distracted. Your whole focus gets taken from what you do, which is delivering campaigns or running content or whatever it is you do. So it shouldn't be your end goal. I mean, it's nice to have some cash, but you should be really in it for the love of it, really. I think most people are in their businesses.
Yeah. And then, of course, if you do decide to sell, you're selling that thing that you love. So that must be difficult.
Yeah, exactly. It's tricky, but it's your choice. You don't have to sell it, so you could keep going, or there's a lot of options.
As I was preparing for today, I know just doing a Mr. Google on it, and I saw some article. I couldn't even tell you which publication it was on, but there was a quote from you about the media industry, and I think basically you said, it isn't the world for me anymore. Yeah,
I would say that my new positive way of thinking of life, I don't want to diss anybody or diss any job or any profession, but at the end of it, I look back and I was just like, there's a lot of... I don't know if I had enough meaning in what I was doing. I think there's a lot of cynicism and fakeness and stuff like that in the media, and it just wasn't for me at the end. And that doesn't mean I didn't love it at the time. I really did, like chefing as well, but I just fell out of love with it, I guess. And there's great elements of media, but I felt like a lot of it. How do I explain this? Like, I felt like a lot in Ireland when you're selling media campaigns and doing stuff, it was more about who you knew and how you schmoozed people and how you looked after clients rather than what you were sort of actually delivering, which is kind of in terms of substance, maybe eyeballs or views or whatever it is. So that's kind of, but look, that's the way of the world. Like I said, I don't want to be slagging anybody.
Yeah, and maybe as well, and this is something that I found, is with scale. At the beginning, you're probably dealing with, trying to sell in your services to smaller businesses, and you get a real sense of who they are. And that investment with you is the world, and it really has to work. And as you go up the food chain, you're dealing with account managers and account directors, and you're so many steps removed, and maybe the heartbeat of everything that's happening disappears a little bit, or it becomes further away. Can you remember the moment when you said, I'm selling this?
No, it's not it's probably like a 1-2 year process of ups and downs and maybes and conversations. And, it looks very black and white when you look back in hindsight, like everything. But, well, there was one moment. It wasn't that I was going to sell the business. I was in Manchester, doing Love in Manchester, and it was raining. I was walking Snoop, who's beside me, in the middle of a park outside Manchester, and it was freezing rain. And I put my foot in a puddle that I thought was frozen, and my foot went straight through it, and then I was soaked, and I was just like, I was about 4:00 in the afternoon, and it was nearly pitch dark, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. So maybe, that was actually a moment. I didn't go back to the office and say, sell the business, but I was just like that, something flipped at that moment.
Yeah, it's dangerous when those conversations start in your head, isn't it? When those little seeds are sown or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you did sell, did you literally have to get out of there? You were saying it's like a death, just to stop those constant reminders. Did you have to vamoose?
In different ones, Simply Zesty, I had what's called an earnout. So I got half the money, and then half the money if I stayed. I think I'm going to say 4 years it was, maybe 4, I think 4. And I lasted, I think, 5 months because it was a corporate big UTV at the time. And I was just like, I cannot do this. This is not for me,
Did you think you could?
Did I think I could? Yeah, I went into it. I was like, geez, I've never done corporate world. This will be exciting. I'll be good at this. And then my friend, a guy I knew said, like, you won't last more than 6 months. So I think I lasted 5. Not that anything was bad. It just wasn't for me. It was, too monolithic and process driven, and just not my skill set at all.
That cost you though, didn't it? That cost you financially to leave it behind.
Absolutely, rightly or wrongly, I was just like watching the clock, and I was like, I can't be living like this. I was miserable, So I left half the money there, but.
Yeah, I love that, Niall. That for me is when happy. You're like, this is killing me. I'm on this earth, once. Yeah, money. You're not going to put me in prison for 3.5 years for a check. Yeah,
it's a hard decision to make at the time, but it's totally the right decision. But then again, I think all of us in our lives are probably in places because of checks, be it 200 quid a week or $1 million a week, or a footballer earning 500 grand a week. Like everybody's a certain amount enthralled to probably out of necessity most of the time, but we're in places that we don't like. So if you're lucky enough to have a choice, it's nice to be able to not be in that position.
Yeah. But life is a check, and the currency isn't always money.
That's true, yeah. It's easy to say that when you're, I think, a bit older. Maybe when you're younger, you don't have that knowledge. Maybe. Not everybody, but I didn't.
Yeah. So how old were you, that Niall, 5 months into this earnout?
Oh, I'd say about 32, 33 maybe. Around that.
And you're like, I'm out of here. I don't care about the money. Done. This is killing me.
I mean, if I just sat tight and clocked in and clocked out every day, I could have made loads of money, but not for me.
Yeah. At times, do you think the earnout is a bit of a trick because they pretty much know most people aren't going to stay the course?
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's a double positive for them. Either you don't stay the course and get the other half of the money, or you hit the targets and stay the second half and they make money. So it's only a win for them, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And the end of Love and...
Oh, that was different. That was pretty much straight away. It's a guy called Emmett who bought my shares, who was kind of like a business partner and mentor at the start. And I just said at the end, after that puddle incident in Manchester, I was talking to him and I said, look, I just don't fancy this anymore. And then just chatted a bit and he was like, look, why don't I buy the shares off you? And it moved pretty fast like that. And then because Lovin was kind of associated with me, it was just kind of better that I was either there or I wasn't. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't be sort of half in, half out of something like that. So I just both decided it was best to leave straight away. No bad feelings, all good. So that was completely different, that one, yeah.
Yeah, there's no Bill Shankly turning up at the training ground the following day, you know?
No, exactly. It couldn't work, that exactly.
Yeah, because I know you're a big Liverpool fan now, isn't that right?
Oh, I love them, yeah.
I have it on record now. End of interview, end of conversation.
Yeah.
That's it.
I've actually given up. I've given up on football, which is a nice place to be.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about leadership, and I swear to God, I'm all in on Klopp.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Klopp for me could lead anything.
He really could. Even when you see him talk about politics, or I've seen him talk about Brexit and COVID and, really, really hard topics that the media go mental if you say one wrong word. He just comes out with 3 minutes and it's just logical. And, even a hardcore Everton or United fan would be like, yeah, that's correct. He's just a very good, straight up guy, I think.
When everyone was losing their shit about COVID and vaccinations, I think it was coming up to a transfer window and he was asked, would you contemplate signing a player if they were non-vax or whatever? And he turned it into a conversation about solidarity. And he said, in Liverpool, right or wrong, we're all in this together. And everyone here gets vaccinated because we're together in this. It wasn't a case of right or wrongs. He just spoke about that idea of just being together, and it was brilliant. It was a brilliant moment where, wow, you've given
he's just very good at getting so much out of people. Like they've great players now, but he didn't have great players, 2 years or maybe 3 years. Like he always got more out of players than anybody else ever could, which is impressive.
So you losing interest in football incredibly coincided with Man U being crap for a long time. So I'm just wondering about the time you have it now.
Well, it's when you tune in and it's the Man U City games are like fantastic. As a neutral, it's really nice to watch. I have to say, like I don't know who I want to win, but they are really spectacular games, I have to say.
So tell me, did Thailand happen immediately after Lovin?
Yeah, it was. It was straight away. Yeah. Well, I went traveling for 2 months or something, but straight after that, I'd been building for a few years. I'd come here for a month every December to get away from the cold, dark days. But then I just said, feck it, and just jumped at it, yeah. Because
a lot of us have those conversations. We go to a nice holiday spot, and sometimes you might find yourself looking at the auctioneer's window, or I wonder what it would be like to live here. So was that a fairly quick decision? I'm all in.
I'm fairly impulsive, or not impulsive, but I'll do things that are a bit mad. It's like you say, I think everybody has that dream, but it's hard to do. It's hard to move away from what you're familiar with and what you know and move to a different country. It's real. I think a lot of people definitely fantasized about it, but don't do it. And I would highly recommend it to live somewhere different. Yeah.
And talk to me about siblings and family and all that kind of stuff. Like, is that one of the painful parts about, moving so far away?
Yeah, definitely. When I first moved, I was like, it's only a direct flight to Bangkok to 10 hours or whatever. It's not that bad, But then COVID obviously hit, so it kind of was 3 years before getting home. So that very unusual circumstances, and it was kind of like the whole world was in it. People couldn't see each other from 5 miles down the street, never mind around the world. So it wasn't really real for the first couple of years being away from home. So yeah, it's definitely a downside, but it's a good excuse for people to come out to somewhere warm for a holiday and hang out for a while.
Yeah, and you obviously have been a really busy person between the chefing and all of that media work, and obviously you got a few bob by selling it and everything. From being kind of super active to, I'm kind of done here. Were you climbing the walls?
Yeah, I didn't think I was, but yeah, absolutely. It's not that you're climbing the walls, but I mean, there's only so many times you can go to the gym or go for a run or go for drinks, which was my problem, or go for, it's great fun for a week or two or a month or two even, but then you need a purpose in life. You need something to be at, like you can't just be waking up in the morning and reading Twitter, like you need something, to do after that. So yeah, I think I was missing a purpose in life, definitely.
Okay. And when did that knock on your door?
I've drank myself into a bad place. Like I've always been honest about that. Like booze and addiction issues. And that really surfaced up when I had a lot of spare time, and a quick drink about 14, 15 months ago now. And it flared up at that time. I was just, because I had nothing to do, I would just go and drink at 12 o'clock and meet people. It's like living in a holiday place if you want to. Like it'd be like going to, I don't know, Marbella or wherever, south of France, and just that's where you live. And there's nobody to judge you, and the bars are open all day, and everybody's in party mode. So it's easy to sort of slip into, and I did, definitely. So that's when it dawned on me. Once I had to give up the booze, it was time to find something with meaning.
Yeah. And have you totally given up, have you?
Yeah. Absolutely. Not had a drop in 15 months. I drank so much I ended up in hospital, so I don't mind saying that, because I've always suffered a bit from depression, which, well, a bit, that's kind of lessening it. Where I suffer a lot from it at times, or have done, and alcohol makes it better, or makes it worse.
Depending on the day.
Yeah, it does make it better for about 4 or 5 hours when you're drunk, and then it makes it worse.
Yeah, and making that decision to pack it up, like it sounds to me like where you're living is part of the problem. Do you know what I mean? Where it's party central. I'm sure when you go out the door, left or right, it's party central, is it?
It is if you want it to be, but it's like anywhere. Like I could find drink in Dublin at 2 in the morning, or like if you really want to find drink, it's not hard. And now there's also, like, this is where I live in Koh Samui. Is yes, there's party side, but there's also, the reason I came here is it's a center for wellness and this yoga and vegan and all that healthy stuff is here. It's well known for like retreats and all that. So yeah, there's as much as there's alcohol everywhere. If you're in Ballincollig and you don't want to drink, or you want to drink, you're still going to find your 8 cans down in Centra or wherever. It doesn't really matter where you are, to be honest, I think.
Yeah, so all of this wellness and everything, and watering holes around at every corner.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so come on, the purpose, give it to me.
Oh, the dogs, yeah, I love the dogs. I've always loved dogs, and I just started feeding them a bit here and there. I don't actually, for the last 2 or 3 years, would feed them a bit here and there. I'd just buy a couple of tins or whatever in the shop and then feed them. But that kind of defeats, just giving them a little high there. It's not looking after them properly. So I started feeding them January properly, like a group of them every day, and then that's grown to about 65, I'd say now, 70 nearly, and then sterilizing them and finding them homes. And there's a big problem here with stray dogs, so it's really hard to get your head around if you haven't been to Thailand or other countries that are similar, like maybe Bali or India or Sri Lanka. It's just stray dogs everywhere, and I love them dogs, as a lot of people do. And they're suffering a lot, so I'm trying to help them. Yeah.
Can I play another clip? Can I?
Oh, you can. Yeah.
Oh, Monday morning. Everybody's hungry. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, who's hungry? You're in a good position. You're smart. Okay, let's go. Oh, everybody's going to get a big feed today. Off the road, come on. Oh, that is delicious. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
I think that listening to that, I think there's a few locals around. I think they must think who's the crazy, bald, white lad out whistling to the dogs.
It's funny now, we have 2 rescue dogs, and I must say, and this probably accelerated during COVID. Sometimes you wonder who's rescuing who.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's I think they can teach you a lot, and they're wonderful companions. Especially, it's great to hear you've got rescue dogs. It's a great way to go. Snoop, my other dog, is a rescue dog. They're wonderful creatures, aren't they?
Yeah, they're absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, what's your routine? What's your daily routine now?
Oh, it started it starts small and then it's got bigger and bigger. I barely have a spare second now. I get up at 6:30 and go and feed them first of all. And I started off feeding them thinking that was it, but it's about 5% of it. The medical stuff is much bigger. There's always I could drive up around the corner and there could be 4 puppies, or there could be a dog with a run over, or there could be anything up there. So the day goes wherever. Could go anywhere the day. So feed them all, and then if I'm my aim is always to get back for breakfast, a big feed of breakfast at 8:30, 9, because I'm starving, and I hopefully have the 65 sort of fed by then. But if something has popped up, I could be off at the vets or anywhere.
It sounds like with your mission, that's going to get a touch busier, will it?
It is, but it's also people are always saying, why don't you take that one home, or why don't you take more home? And it's the same with feeding them. In a perverse way, that actually makes it worse, because it makes them bigger, stronger, and they can breed and multiply faster. So you've got to do the sterilizing, which is stopping the babies. And so, I can't get bogged down in just helping if you know what I mean. That's great and it'll make me feel good and all that. But if I really want to make a difference, I need to think of it strategically, like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about kind of addressing that bigger problem. I think it reminds me a little bit of that story about Tom's shoes. That there's no point putting a bandage on something, that you need to try and look at the problem and really try to solve it.
Yes.
And I know all of that business is expensive as well, because you're buying a lot of food. Is there a way for anyone listening, if they want to tune in and help you in some way, and all the dog lovers out there, pet lovers?
Yeah, there's a link in my profile that I just accept donations. So I'm doing that at the moment. And then I'm in the process of setting up a foundation, because I'm in Thailand, so I can do it myself and just use my own time and everything. But if I want to grow it, I need to have a foundation so that I could hire people or get a vet in, or, do that sort of stuff. But at the moment, I'm doing it sort of everything myself. So there's a donation link in my profile, and then I fund it a bit myself as well. So food is not that expensive. I mean, about $25-$30 a day feeds 70 dogs, with puppies and all that. They get special food, but the medical care is expensive. That's where the vets are pretty much the same as they would be in Europe. And you could get a €300 medical vet bill, or so that stuff is where it gets expensive. And
the vets must be looking at you again, wondering, what's this white creature bothering his backside, spending money looking after ruffians?
Yeah, exactly. They're not complaining either, I suppose.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
I know some of them they actually love animals as well. It's more the drugs are expensive. It's stuff to put them asleep and all that. Or, when you're doing an operation, what's that called? When you knock the dog out.
Yeah, anesthesia and whatever, anesthetics.
Yeah, that's Western prices, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So,
what's happened to you, Niall?
Just what I'm doing at the moment is that is what I'm doing. I don't know how I've managed to get here in my life, but I'm I wake up in the morning, it's sunny, I'm on an island, and I have a little Jeep, open air, or my moped, and I feed dogs. And then I'm so tired by the end of the day, I started going to bed at 8:30 or 9. I've always been midnight or 1 o'clock. I'm so tired, I have to just collapse into bed, and I fall asleep in 2 minutes thinking I've fed a load of dogs and saved dogs' lives today. And that's happiness. That's it.
Yeah, fantastic. And looking into the future, this idea of winning happy, what would winning look like for you now?
I think just I have a certain skill set, and definitely in business or whatever, team building, whatever you want to call it. So it'd be a waste to just do it for 60 or 70 dogs. I should use that skill set to help thousands of dogs. That's the way I'm thinking about it. So there's a lot of volunteers who do what I do, and they hit a little certain level, but I think I should use my skills to be able to help thousands of dogs. So it's going to be a journey for the rest of my life. And you have to think about funding and processes, and you'd need a building and all those sort of things, but which are not as much fun as just going out to feed dogs. But that's what I have to do, if I want to scale it up.
And as you said already, you're very clever at picking people that can do all that shit.
Hopefully, yeah. Whatever happens, like however big it gets, I will still go for the first 2 hours of every day and feed the dogs, because it's like you say, it's like therapy, you know. It's like anybody who has dogs, it's all you going out with your 2 dogs. It's that alone time, whatever you do, podcast or just think to yourself, or the dogs are off doing their stuff. But it really is I think that's where the dogs can teach you a lot, is just to have your alone space and clear your head and get ready for the day. And they're very good at teaching you that. Or if you didn't have those 2 dogs, you might just be sitting at home scrolling your phone or listening to people giving out on the radio or whatever it is, you know. So I think dogs can teach you a lot in that sort of way.
Have you a few favorites, have you?
Not supposed to have. It's like kids. I don't have kids, but you're not really meant to answer that question, are you? But yeah, there definitely would be a few favorites. I think the first one, Lucky, because she's the one who sort of I started with, and then there's others like Angel today, she's just an angel. She looks after other dogs, so like she's really cool. But they're all unique characters, and they all need help.
Yeah, I saw a lovely piece by you. Was it today or yesterday? You were talking about some puppies and they needed someone to look after them. And you were talking about bringing them to a foster home. And in my head, that was some family somewhere that loved dogs and they'd look after them for a while. But it was actually another dog, and you seem to have a little hut built for them. Is that the way it works?
It is, yeah. It's actually, I couldn't really share the full story, because it's a couple who look after dogs down in a really safe place by the beach, and the puppies can go there because it's safe, and they feed them and bring them medicine and everything. And there's another dog who I'd put there before, but I didn't want to tell everybody because people would come and dump all the puppies then with them. But yeah, there's little houses that have been built there for them. They get fed every morning, and it's just a little safe place. And the other one is a dog I'd already rescued, Angel, who will be a foster mom to them. So it's great, yeah. It's good for the soul, yeah.
Yeah. I've got one last big question for you. What was your best day?
Doing this or in everything?
Ever.
Oh, ever. Jesus. Wow. I think it's probably when you're kids, I'd say. I mean, I don't remember anything about it, but I was, my dad took me to see Ireland, England in Stuttgart in 1988, which is going back. It's the European Championships when we beat England 1-0. And I'd say, like, if I looked at the day, it was probably, I don't know, I was young, I was probably giving out all day. It's romanticized in my head. Do you know what I mean? But like, if you beat England 1-0 in football in the European, everybody, I just remember all the old people being happy. They're obviously pissed, all of them, you know, in Germany, like having a great, but it seemed like a good memory, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how things like that stick with you, in particular those family moments and all of that. I have a similar memory. I think it was just a pre-season friendly, and Dad took me, I think it was Liverpool playing some Irish 11 selection or whatever, and seeing the bus rolling in with Kenny Dalglish and Jimmy Case and all of those players, and I couldn't tell you how old I was, but drove to Dublin with Dad, probably the banter in the car on the way up and on the way back, and probably home really late, I don't know, midnight, 1 a.m, but you had a day with your dad, you know.
Yeah. Actually, there was another one, was Tyrone winning the All-Ireland against Kerry. And again, it was with family. And it's funny how they're sport, but sport brings out something, a different level of emotion when it's your team that you've gone, which is what it'll be like when United win the league again in 2045.
You'll start watching again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I actually think the football thing is weird. I think with your football team, it's like an emotional bank. And you start off when you're young, and by the time you're my age, you've put in, give or take 50 years of highs and lows. So that bank gets deeper and deeper all of the time. So when you're biting your nails watching the last few minutes of a game, it's not the few minutes of a game, it's 50 years of all of that, like all of those memories. So I think it just becomes more and more overwhelming as time goes on, you know?
It does. I think you touch on an interesting point. It's when you're younger, though, it's even better because these guys are like superstars, and they're like gods in your head. Like the young kids looking at Ronaldo or whatever. Or when who was I looking at? Gigs or those sort of, like, they're just like heroes from another planet. And then you maybe see them in real life, and it's like, Jesus, this isn't it, right? You lose a bit of that innocence as you go older. Now I think we're just a bit more cynical when you get older, but it's nice when you're young to watch the sports, especially.
Yeah, and maybe dogs can give you back some of that simplicity.
Yeah,
there's no mess in there. They come up and they'll give you a cuddle or a rub.
Exactly. They're just, it's like I have one dog and I always loved that, but now I have like 60, 70 that I see every day, and they're all characters, and so it's the dream. I can't really complain.
Yeah. So are you winning happy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I genuinely am. Sometimes in your life you say at different times, you're like, oh yeah, I'm happy. Now I'm genuinely happy, yeah.
Yeah. I think you have it figured out, Niall. Well done. You cracked the code.
I don't know. I'll get run over by a truck or something, and you never know what's around the corner. You just got to stay positive, and that's one thing I said. If I was lying on my hospital bed, would I be happy with today what I've done? And absolutely yes. So you just got to do the same tomorrow and the next day, and do what you love.
Yeah. Well, please keep doing what you're doing, and please keep giving us all a flavour of it every day, because I know you were talking about kind of well-being and everything. Not only are you helping those dogs and maybe helping yourself in some kind of a funny way, you're helping a lot of us who are watching, and I really appreciate that.
I really didn't expect that. I get it. You look at your feed as 20 bits of bad news, and then if you see a dog that's been like, I understand it now, the effect it's having. I didn't anticipate that at all, but it's a great thing to be able to do. Yeah. Just put a smile on somebody's face by looking at a dog video. You're not hurting anybody. Everybody's a winner there, really, aren't they? Yeah, that's
absolutely. And thank you, and thank you for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, take it easy, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Lucky, lucky, lucky. Lucky. Lucky, lucky, lucky. Where were you at? On an adventure? Oh, what a good girl. You're late for your breakfast, Lucky. You're late. Where were you?
Thank you for listening to the Win Happy podcast, which has been brought to you by Fusion Communications. If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to send me an email at greg@fusion.ie. So until next time, take it easy.